Most of Week 15 is in the books, and it started back on Thursday night with the game between the Falcons and Bucs. The Falcons surprised everyone as they beat Tampa with a score of 29-28 to improve to 5-9. There are a couple of things to take away from this game for Atlanta. Given that we are nearly 2 years post Kirk Cousins' Achilles surgery, I think it'll be interesting to see who is interested in his services to play for them in 2026, and that includes Atlanta, with the uncertainty of Michael Penix. Kyle Pitts is also a free agent, and I've been a supporter of Kyle Pitts for a long time and have said to simply get him the football and let him go to work. And a win is a win, but there were still some ugly things within this win for Atlanta. They had 19 penalties for starters, and just because they won does not mean I still don't think there will be changes made with the coaching staff this offseason. With Tampa, this is short and sweet, or short and ugly if you will, based on how they played. You went from 5-1 to 7-7 and are now 1-5 since their Week 9 bye, with the lone win coming over the Cardinals in a game you did not look good in. Todd Bowles also more or less threw the team underneath the bus in a post-game press conference, and while the season isn't over as they played the Panthers 2 times in their last 3 games and can win the NFC South, I kind of ask the question, if they win the NFC South, which I don't think they will, but if they do you think this team can beat the Rams or Seahawks in the wild card round based on how this team has played over the past 6 weeks? No, and for me, the 2025 season for the Bucs in a lot of ways is over, and I think there will be big changes with the coaching staff this offseason. The Commanders went to the Big Apple, or North Jersey if you will, and beat the Giants 29-21 after they lost 31-0 last week, and I thought this was a big win for Washington because I really thought if they played as bad as they did in Week 14 in the final 4 games and finished their season on a 12-game losing streak, then there was a possibility, not a guarantee, but a possibility of Dan Quinn being let go this offseason. But with this win, this was the first time Washington swept the Giants in back-to-back years since 1984, and there will be talks about a meaningless win, but you also swept your rival, and that always feels good. Terry McLaurin also had a big touchdown, and Ja'Cory Krosky-Barrett looked good too. I would be kind of surprised if Washington wins another game this year, but it's hard to get upset about sweeping a rival. With the Giants, and this also applies to the Commanders too, one of the biggest takeaways from this game is how clear draft needs are for each team, Washington specifically with pass rush. Now, obviously losing Malik Nabers early in the year was extremely unfortunate, but one of the biggest positions of need for the Giants in the 2026 draft is receiver. It's clear every week, and you have to properly build around Jackson Dart. I understand Giants fans' frustrations, and they have to execute better too. And the infamous man that says quotes like that too will also soon be gone, and there will be a big video on the Giants once the draft order is settled. The Texans beat the Cardinals 40-20, and this game got out of hand pretty quick. Nico Collins scored a touchdown in the first minute of the game, and Houston was up 17-0 with 6 minutes left in the first quarter. They were up 23-7 at half, and eventually 30-7 in the third quarter, and for a brief time I was wondering if the Cardinals were going to come back as they closed the lead to 33-20, but it was to no avail. Within this game, CJ Stroud looked really good, Jawar Jordan became the first Texans running back to rush for 100 yards in a game this season, and Nico Collins had 113 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. I think Texans fans were nervous for a minute, but they won by 20 points, and they have now clinched a winning season despite starting 0-3. With Arizona, yes, they were down Paris Johnson and Marvin Harrison Jr. among others, and that'll inevitably affect your game plan, but that doesn't change how bad the defense is and how much this team regularly underperforms, which has been a constant in the Jonathan Gannon era. And really, outside of Trey McBride, who was awesome in Week 15, this is a bad football team, and they look mentally checked out. It's been a really frustrating season, and I feel bad for the fans, and if you watched this game, or even last week against the Rams, unfortunately, they need to clean house. The Jags beat the Jets 48-20 and improved to 10-4, and Trevor Lawrence had, wait for it, 6 total touchdowns. Trevor was dealing in this game as he also threw for 330 yards, and Travis Etienne had 3 receiving touchdowns too. This was a highlight reel day for the Jags, and I'm at the point where I'm really starting to buy back in with Trevor Lawrence. Not all the way because this was again against the Jets, but Trevor has rebounded big time since the Cardinals game a few weeks ago, and the Jags are a very sneaky team to go to the AFC Championship game. And obviously with the success the Patriots and Bears have had, Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson lead the Coach of the Year discussions, but Liam Cohen should absolutely be right there too. This team is 10-4 and is now averaging 32.9 points per game in their last 7 since their Week 8 bye. They can be a dangerous team, and they can beat anybody on any given Sunday. With the Jets, yes, Brady Cook threw the one really bad interception that Jets fans are probably used to seeing, bad clips involving their team, but he gave up 48 points on the road with an undrafted free agent quarterback. If you told me that before the game, I would take the other team to win 100% of the time. Period. This is a very bad team, and they have now went 14 games without an interception as a defense, which is an NFL record. The only positive thing is free agency, and the NFL draft is a day closer. To the Windy City we go, and we have to start by saying good, better, best. The Bears won 31-3 in a game where Rome Odunze was announced he was going to be out in pregame warmups, and as a fan when that happens, you're always on edge because of the thought of, great, here we go, but the Bears never wavered. And not only that, but this was a rare win for the Bears where it was not a nail-biter, and they dominated. Caleb Williams had 2 very good touchdown passes in this game, and the Bears outgained Cleveland 361-192, and I was a little worried that this would be a game where the Bears look ahead because they play the Packers next week, and the Browns defense can shut down anybody, but Chicago took care of business. With Cleveland, this was obviously a long day as Shedeur Sanders threw 3 interceptions, and outside of a 15-yard run from Shedeur, the Browns averaged just 2.3 yards per carry. The weather was also extremely cold, and Dennis Allen pretty much said, "We are going to force a rookie quarterback to beat us in the cold on the road, and you have to tip your cap to the Bears defense." Jerry Jeudy also had a bad game, and the positive for the Browns in this game, as you can probably guess, is Myles Garrett. I think there is a real reality where Kevin Stefanski gets a job offer within a day or two of being fired, but I'm also a believer changes need to be made on the coaching staff. Not Andrew Berry at GM to be clear, but definitely with the coaching staff. This is a unit that regularly does not come close to maximizing the talent they have, which of course goes back on coaching. The Eagles beat the Raiders 31-0 at the Link on Sunday, and this was a good bounce-back win for Philly, especially with what happened in Week 14. In Week 14 on Monday night, Jalen Hurts threw 4 interceptions and even had 2 turnovers on one play, and there was a lot of talk in Philly prior to the Raiders game about how the Eagles could be double-digit favorites over any team, even with how bad the Raiders are. And, well, the Eagles more than handled business, as this was the shortest game of the NFL season. The Eagles outgained the Raiders 387-75, and if you didn't watch this game, well, it was a pummeling. We made a video on the Raiders recently, which will be linked at the end, and I truly believe this is one of the worst teams in the NFL over the past 5 years. The Raiders offense also had the fewest yards in a single game since 1961, in their franchise that is, and I don't think there is anything to gain by firing Pete Carroll with 3 weeks left in the year, because in the worst case scenario, what if they win a game? They won 2 games last year in weeks 16 and 17, and I don't think the Raiders have to worry about that this year, but at this point, you might as well ride it out because, again, there are only 3 games left. The biggest takeaways from this game is Kevin Patullo has officially earned a spot in the Eagles' Ring of Honor, obviously, as the Birds put up 31 points, and the Raiders are an all-time bad team, and for the sake of their fan base, I really hope they lose out, respectfully, of course. The Buffalo Bills went into New England and beat the Patriots 35-31, and there was a point in this game where it looked really ugly for the Bills. They were completely outcoached in the first half, and they were down 24-7 at half. There was a lot of jawing going back and forth between the fan bases in this game, and how New England is back and how the Bills' time is up, but Buffalo outscored New England 28-7 in the second half, and for now, postponed the Patriots' t-shirt and hat day. Josh Allen threw 3 touchdowns, James Cook had 2 touchdowns, Joey Bosa came up big, and Matt Milano also had 2 sacks. And myself and a lot of people who also enjoy barbells or duffs also had doubts about this team, but nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and this was a huge, huge win for Buffalo. Now, with the Patriots, you had multiple chances at the end of this game to win, and you also blew a 17-point halftime lead. Obviously, this loss stinks, and there's no sugarcoating that, but I'm also a believer that at times it's better in the long run to get a taste of your own blood and to get punched in the mouth before the playoffs start. I know the officiating in this game was questionable on both sides, but only putting up 7 points in the second half is not a recipe for winning, and even better news for both of these teams is the Chiefs were eliminated from the postseason with their loss to the Chargers. The Ravens beat the Bengals 24-0 in the Queen City, and there's a lot to say about this game. With this loss, the Bengals were officially eliminated from playoff contention, and I would imagine everyone saw the Joe Burrow press conference this past week, but if you didn't, well, he said if he's going to do this, he has to have fun, and a reporter asked if there was anything going on, personally or with football, and he responded with all of the above. And some people immediately drew the Andrew Luck comparisons, but I think there's a higher chance Joe Burrow is not a Bengal in 2026 than a lot of people realize. And the Bengals looked lifeless at times within this game, and if you are a Bengals fan, there's no way you're not at the very least mildly concerned about this offseason and everything that's going to ensue. And also within this, with everything that happened in Cincinnati this week, I don't know how you can continue running this back with Zach Taylor. And right now, this is not a good situation. With the Ravens, they improved to 7-7 and shut out a divisional opponent. The Ravens defense looked like the classic Ravens defenses, and this was about as good of a day as you could have hoped for. Kyle Van Noy had an interception, and then he handed it off to Alohi Gilman for a touchdown, and the Ravens' playoff chances are alive, and they have to root for a team that has won 4 games in a row on Monday night in the Miami Dolphins. This was a rare great day of football for Baltimore in the year 2025, and what has been a very enduring season. The Chargers beat the Chiefs 16-13, and with this win improved to 10-4 and also swept Kansas City. They held Kansas City to just 239 yards of total offense, and both Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew each threw interceptions in this game. Kansas City averaged just 2.3 yards per carry, and you have to credit Jesse Minter for holding this team to just 13 points en route to a win. The Chargers have now won 3 in a row since their bye, and with their difficult schedule before the playoffs even start, the biggest thing here, of course, is getting a win and the satisfaction of eliminating a rival from the postseason, and also sweeping Kansas City for that matter too. Now, with Kansas City, the biggest story from this game is that Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, and the 2025 season for the Chiefs has been a season from hell, and this only adds to it. But even within this game, there was a lot of frustration, and there are certainly questions as to why Matt Nagy called a passing play for his backup quarterback on the 39-yard line, which was not a great decision, and the offseason ahead for the Chiefs is going to be a very interesting one. I think there's going to be a lot of changes within the coaching staff, probably not Andy Reid specifically, but a lot of position coaches and specifically offensive coordinator. And the Chiefs, despite going to the Super Bowl last year, well, they are not a good team. Forget Patrick Mahomes for a minute, this roster itself is not great, and the Chiefs will be in a very interesting position this offseason. Thoughts and prayers, of course, are with Patrick Mahomes, Micah Parsons, and every other player who was unfortunately hurt in Week 15. The 49ers beat the Titans 37-24, and in this game, Brock Purdy threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, as he seemingly does every week, found the end zone, and San Francisco improved to 10-4 with a win. Some people will probably look at this and think a perennial contender beat the Titans, and especially in an afternoon slate of games that feature the Lions and Rams and Packers and Broncos, but I really think Kyle Shanahan should be in the Coach of the Year conversation with the hand this team has been dealt this year injury-wise. And for San Francisco to be 10-4 at this point and legitimately be in the division race, well, they're also big winners from Week 15 due in some part to this. Now, the Titans fell to 2-12 with this loss, and Tony Pollard had his second straight 100-yard rushing game. One of my frustrations with the Titans is the play calling at times can be a little conservative, especially when your head coach has already been fired and you're down 3 scores on the road over 2,000 miles from home. There's times in NFL seasons where I wish teams would really let it fly, and like the flashes you occasionally see from this team, and Gunnar Helm specifically had a big play in this game. But the play calling certainly doesn't do Cam Ward any favors, and even with that being said, I thought he was fine in Week 15, and another loss at this point is obviously beneficial for this franchise. The Seahawks survived a scare from the Colts as they won 18-16 in a game where Jason Myers kicked 6 field goals to help the Seahawks improve to 11-3. The 2025 season has been insanely unpredictable, and if this game proved anything, especially with who is at quarterback for the Colts, it's that any given Sunday, as cliche as the quote is, has been said countless times for a reason. The Seahawks didn't get in the end zone in this game, and the biggest takeaway that Seahawks fans and everyone knows is this will not cut it Thursday against the Rams, and that's what matters most from this game. Admittedly, heading in, I would imagine a lot of us had the train of thought that, hey, Phillip Rivers hasn't played in 5 years and he's going against a Mike McDonald defense on the road in his first start back. This has potential to be very bad. But Indy made it a close game, and Seattle played more of a game that we're used to from the Seahawks over the past 10 years. With the Colts, obviously with the low expectations heading into this game, I thought they played good. The most maddening part to me wasn't the fact they lost, it was the fact they basically let the Seahawks walk right down the field on the game-winning drive. And if there's any big takeaway for Indy in this game, it's that this definitely was a missed opportunity. The Saints beat the Panthers 20-17 with a 47-yard walk-off field goal from the Irishman Charlie Smith to improve to 4-10, while the Panthers fell to 7-7. And like we've been saying for a few weeks now, and Saints fans, I know you're rightfully getting excited, but I'm pretty much at the point where you have to roll with Tyler Shuck in 2026. He regularly makes big NFL throws, and to me, like we said with the Commanders and Giants, anytime you sweep a division rival, it's hard not to get excited about. Tyler Shuck looks good, and we've also said this before, but you would like to think, specifically with the weaponry around him, that this will probably be the worst supporting cast Tyler Shuck has around him as a Saint, and he's still getting it done. And for the draft pick crowd, at some point you have to win games, and I'm really happy for Kellen Moore, Tyler Shuck, and Saints fans. Now, with Carolina, here we are again. This is why I never definitively bought in with this team. Anytime they get close to having you buy in, they have a performance like this. I still think they can win the division because I don't have any confidence in Tampa at all, but this was the Panthers coming off their bye. This was the Panthers with 2 weeks to prepare for a 3-10 football team, and that's what you get. It was the biggest game of the year for this team, and especially after Atlanta handed them a gift on Thursday, and they laid an egg. And whether Tampa or Carolina goes to the playoffs, I don't think it matters, because I'd be shocked if whoever wins the NFC South is not a first-round exit. The Rams beat the Lions 41-34 in one of the most entertaining games of the year so far, and this was a huge win for the Rams, not just because they beat the Lions, but because they were down 24-14 at a point, and they could not cover Amon-Ra St. Brown. It looked like Detroit was going to put up 40 points of their own and improve to 9-5, while the Rams fell to 10-4. But they didn't, and they battled through a lot of adversity. The biggest concern for the Rams after this game is, of course, Davante Adams and the severity of his hamstring injury. This was a brutal week of injuries, and it's even bigger because they play the Seahawks on Thursday night on a short week. If there is any positive news for the Rams, it's that the Seahawks were just in a dogfight against a team with a quarterback who had not played in 5 years. But they're 11-3, and in a lot of ways, the NFC West title is on Thursday night. With the Lions, there was definitely some questionable calls. I think everyone would acknowledge that, but what's also not good is allowing 500 yards of opposing offense and 159 yards on the ground, or allowing 181 yards to the opposing team's best receiver. It's obviously been a very long year for Detroit, but they're 8-6 for a reason. It feels like the theme of the 2025 Lions season is being a day late and a dollar short, and they can technically still get into the postseason, but I don't think they're going to at this point. But if they do, well, like we all saw in this game, they can put up 30+ points in any given week. But the defense, and specifically defensive line at times this year, has been a big problem for the Lions. The Broncos beat the Packers 34-26, and Brandon Perno survived Tom Grassi as Denver improved to 12-2 with their 11th straight win. And for the Broncos, we have to start this game with Bo Nix. Bo Nix was spectacular as he threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Courtland Sutton had over 100 yards and a touchdown too. There's been a lot of people, hell, myself included, that have had questions about the Broncos throughout the 2025 season, whether it was because of a win like the Jets game back in Week 6 or like the Giants game in Week 7. Well, none of that matters right now. They beat a team, and a very good football team, and their quarterback played lights out. Not only that, but the Broncos are also huge winners from Week 15 because the Patriots also lost, and they currently have the best record in the NFL, and this was a new best game of Bo Nix's career when they had to have it. Now, with Green Bay, the loss stinks, but losing to an 11-2 team on the road isn't the worst thing in the world. It happens. That kind of is what it is. But losing Zach Tom, Micah Parsons, and Christian Watson all at various points is unfortunately what matters most, and it is feared that Micah Parsons has torn his ACL, and obviously from a human being standpoint, we wish everyone the best in recovery, but pertaining to Week 15 takeaways, unfortunately I don't know how you can come away with this, with all of these injuries. Anything other than the Packers season is over. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe, as a football will appear when you do, and we recently hit 225,000 subscribers. I cannot thank you enough for the support, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.